launch right into our questions and explanations. Eureka. Oh, that was a cool noise.
Oh boy, very space-like.
All right, Ariel, do you want to read them off or should I? I read them off? All right. What do astronauts use instead of bread to make sandwiches in space? Comedians, do you have any thoughts?
Bagels. If anyone can beat bagels, you can also be a comedian.
What about like two just some halves of like astronaut ice cream, you know, but you just leave it dry and you just put the nice salami in the middle? Is that super gross?
Super gross.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like we haven't warmed up this audience yet. I feel like you guys are very much like, hey, we came to learn, okay? We never recovered from you calling us nerds, bro.
Tortillas.
Wait. Raise that light again.
Tortillas.
Do we have a light on there?
Yes, is that
Wait, where did
Is
that
that correct?
Wait.
That's a Eureka moment, guys.
Eureka.
Eureka!
I don't know, I just guessed.
Yes, my butt.
Oh my God, the joke is Donald Trump right now. Holy shit.
All right, well, you are so lucky, because guess what you get? And you're not in space when you need it.
Wait, is that one tortilla? What budget do we have for this show?
Listen, you know,
Are we giving away the whole pack over the course of the hour?
next person.
I don't want to don't get too excited like right off the bat.
I'll treasure it.
You're gonna go home, make one half of a quesadilla.
We'll give somebody else the beans. We'll give someone else like the pepper.
You guys are gonna meet out front.
It'll be amazing. Nice, yeah.
That was hilarious. What kind of a tortilla is it though?
It looks like it's got tomato in it, you know, like a red.
Only the best. Only the best.
Man. So, wait, what the heck? Why tortillas?
So when you're in space, having things that are crumbly is really bad because it can get stuck in instrumentation and it can like gum up things, and it's just generally frowned upon ever since pretty much the early days of space exploration. So astronauts to this day use tortillas to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, to make all sorts of things that shouldn't really go with tortillas, but it's because the tortillas don't crumble. So yeah, the peanut butter and jellies are just a little bit depressing.
It's a PBJ taco. It's anything you deal with is a taco.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Yeah.
That's disgusting. I can see it on his face. He probably had a peanut butter and jelly taco.
He doesn't look happy at all.
Doesn't look happy at all. He's like, get me off this place.
I make them for my son because he's like allergic to gluten, and now I feel so much better about that choice. That's not a joke, that's just straight up true. And now I get to go home and tell Shiloh that he is training to be an astronaut. This is paying off. So big for me.
I did not know you had a son.
Yeah.
Do you have a wife? Who is he by himself? What's happening?
Yeah, they live in a different house. We can get into it later.
It's just a first date. It's just a first date conversation.
Let's get back to space.
Yeah.
Something less depressing.
So they can't eat anything that crumbles.
It's really, yeah, they try to limit it as much as possible. There is a story, I forget which spacecraft this was, but there is a story that, you know, in the early days, they weren't letting, you know, astronauts take anything crumbly on board, and a couple of astronauts said, screw that, like, we're gonna take on, like, this corned beef sandwich. And they, as soon as they bit into it, like, it just went everywhere, and they got in a lot of trouble for it.
So is the astronaut ice cream that we have in, like, museums complete bullshit? Because that is super crumbly.
Yes,
Is it?
it is. So
Oh
the
my God,
complete
that's a
story.
huge disappointment.
The story on astronaut ice cream. There's two competing stories. One is that it only flew once. Everyone hated it, and it never flew again. So you could say, well, at least astronauts had it one time. But there's a competing story saying that it may have never flown. So an astronaut that was on the flight where supposedly there was astronaut ice cream on board says that he doesn't remember it being there, and he is arguing with the newspaper that reported it. So it may have never been in
Oh my
space.
God, so like that and the moon landing. This is what we have to sort out.
I love that.
Neil Armstrong is like pissed on so many levels.
I love that he's arguing with the newspaper. He's like, I'm an astronaut, and I do not have anything more important.
Ice cream, fake news, fake news.
I'm eating it, the flag is not flapping in the background.
So because they're in a zero gravity environment, they also have to keep all their utensils and plates strapped to the actual table that they're eating on.
Yep, yeah. Well, yeah, anything that's not strapped down is going to go floating around. That includes
That's
also
all
like if
ladies.
you don't. No. So,
Why do you tell them that?
But so it's like this includes like also if you've got pockets and you forget to zip your pockets up, everything's going to go floating out of your pockets. So you can't just like,
Wait, I do have a real question. Wait, so like they don't like trust themselves to just like catch the fork? Like what's going
No,
on?
well they can, but it'll go floating away. And so if you're trying to do a bunch of different things and then it goes that way, you're gonna have
I
to
see what you're saying.
move around a lot to grab things. And
That's how I know I'm poor. Like you just have one fork, right? Everyone just has one fork. And they...
you know, you have to do it.
You know if you're poor if you're eating tortillas on earth instead of bread.
With a fork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's clear sign something's not working out.
All right, on to our second question. That cool noise. Can you burp in space? Canadians?
Yes. Challenge accepted.
But yeah, but will anybody hear it though? And then what's the point? I don't burp in general, actually. I'm all like out the bottom. It's just I'm just being honest with you.
It depends on the pressure.
Oh, we might have an answer. Okay. You want to raise your hand?
Yeah, let's have a hand raise and then let's get the mic over here. What was that answer again?
It depends on the pressure in the compartment.
I like is that the
Are we talking
compartment
about the spacecraft?
or the body?
I like the light being on has not helped us see who this is at 1%.
Some
All
mysterious.
right, we have another answer.
Yes, you can if you are in a spaceship.
Okay.
Oh.
That's
That was very like trustworthy.
Yeah,
answer,
that
too.
was.
Didn't he say it like he's like, yes you can.
So in the spacecraft, but not like
I
doing
think
like a
you said-
spacewalk? Is that what you're saying?
In
Okay,
this
all right.
spacecraft.
If you are in a spaceship, you can do anything.
Come to my spaceship.
Yeah, this guy's not the coolest guy in the show.
Here we go.
All right,
Here we
we
go.
have another answer.
All right.
The answer is no, because I am not in space.
Oh wow! Trick question.
Give that man a tortilla!
We only have one, so you have to cut that in half.
Oh shit. It is a whole bunch of show. Man.
Didn't really want the tortilla.
That was donated by a local food
Are any of
co-op.
them close?
All right, we have another.
Not yet. Okay, keep
Sort of
going.
close.
Sort of close.
Sort of.
It depends upon the relative pressure between your pressure inside and pressure outside. Did you even
No.
come for comedy, sir?
No.
I think we
burp
might just
spell.
have to explain the answer.
Nobody. Does anybody else have an idea? Reach deep inside your gut. Feel the gas.
Depends on what kind of crumbly beer you have.
Okay, it's true. Is there beer? Do they have beer?
Did we get a closest?
They have a
Did
beer
we
house.
get a closest answer?
Does it not come out as like
I can choose
a
a closest.
Can we
Which one were we closest?
can we give it to the guy with the coolest accent in the world?
Uh-huh.
I don't know, Mr.
Can we give it to
Oh,
the
my
guy?
God,
Let me
bring it to me.
Which one was which one was
The closest is to say no. You
Okay.
can't burp in space. But
Okay.
so here's the thing. So
Okay, well.
if
now
you
we know.
try to burp while you are in space, it doesn't have to do with the pressure. This has to do with gravity. If you try to burp in space, when you burp on Earth, or rather, yeah, when you burp on Earth, all your solids stay down and the gas comes up. If you try to burp in space, you don't have that effect. What will happen is you will end up vomiting. It's not good. So
That man had guacamole.
I do like
That
the
looks
idea.
like peanut butter and tortilla.
This is
We've come full circle.
This is the problem with the patriarchy, is that all the astronauts are men, so at least one of them was like, yeah, I'm gonna try it, I'm gonna see what happens.
A double dog dare.
Can we also please talk about how smart everyone in the audience sounded when they said the wrong answer? All the time I was like, yeah, he knows what he's talking about.
So it's something, you have that going on. So this is actually why there is no soda in space. There's definitely no beer in space. So that's one of the reasons. But the answer is mostly no, because I did interview one astronaut who said he had figured out how to burp in space.
Not this guy.
Not this guy, no. He claimed that while he was in space, he figured out what he calls the push and burp, which is he pushes himself off of the side of the spacecraft, and in that moment when he has enough acceleration, is able to get a burp out without throwing up. And he claims he's the only one that figured it out, and he calls it the push and burp.
That sounds like a CrossFit thing.
Yeah, that sounds like way too much trial and error.
I didn't ask him about how many tries it took.
Yeah.
So, can you not have anything carbonated in space? Now, I'm just curious.
They don't have any soda or anything in space, so it's to try and limit burping.
Wait, just to be clear, farting's okay?
So,
Excellent follow-up.
So
Thank you.
farting is okay. Many astronauts have claimed that they actually fart more in space because they can't burp. I will also say that I did interview astronauts who admitted to trying to test out to see if they could use their farts as a propulsion system for getting around.
I've tried that on Earth, actually.
It didn't work. So,
Didn't work?
No.
They just
Didn't work. But they tried, so
not enough
the more
talk.
you know.
See, again, I'm just gonna go right back to it. This is when you're not sure if it's like physics or the patriarchy, where an astronaut was like, yeah, I can fart in space. Pull my finger, bro. And he's like, I want to go home.
So if you sneeze forward, then you're gonna hit whatever is directly in front of you. It's not gonna go downward, it's just gonna straight.
Oh, wow.
If you sneeze, so if you don't want to sneeze when you have an actual piece of anything in front of your face, 'cause it's gonna come right back at you. But so you have to sneeze downwards all the time.
When you're doing a spacewalk and when you're actually in a spacesuit like this one, they train you on if you feel a sneeze coming that you have to aim your sneeze downwards. Otherwise, you could end up blinding yourself or blinding
With your own sneeze.
Yeah,
They
it
give
could
you
go
like
really
a
wrong.
sneeze bag or something, nice little bucket
No.
with your name on it. It's like Daryl sneezes.
No.
No?
That's how Sandra Bullock dies originally.
Yeah, in Gravity.
Yeah. It was a very short movie.
She chokes on her own sneeze.
Yeah.
So
George Clooney just
I
let
haven't
go,
seen
let
it.
go. And she,
I haven't seen it yet.
You haven't seen it? You don't have to.
Okay.
All right.
I want to ask if Ariel knows about the word escapee.
Whoa, what?
I'm not sure.
Are we? Is this a burp-related question again?
It's a space-related question.
Okay.
It's
Maybe-
Mary Roach.
Uh-huh.
Mary Roach
Yeah.
coined the term.
Oh, no, I
escapee.
don't know.
She started writing about also astronauts in space, and the escapee is that when you sit on the toilet and you're pooping, if it doesn't get sucked down, it will escape and start flying around in zero G.
That's like a bizarre game of like pin the tail on the donkey.
I think I know why I don't know that, because when I was doing my book, I was like, burping, farting, vomiting, okay, those are all okay. I'm not gonna go into like the the escapee route. Yeah, so I explicitly didn't put that in my book, but Mary Roach did, so I mentioned
Butterfly catcher net.
I did not know there were so many books about space. God damn it. I'm going to feel very dumb, I feel like, if I was to predict what's going to happen in the next 90 minutes.
All right, good.
Slash rest of
Confidence,
my life.
confidence, man.
Question number 3. What caused the first astronauts on the space shuttle to experience headaches? Comedians.
No, we already have answers too. I think it'd probably be seeing their co-cosmonaut, puking in their helmet. That would give me a headache.
Yeah, too many push and burps. Just banging into things.
And I pass.
You don't want to call a
I
friend?
know that was an option.
Yeah, I got
The
it.
landline.
We'll go over here. We've had an answer for a second.
Caffeine withdrawal.
Oh, Eureka.
All right.
Why are we not giving our astronauts coffee?
Well, so
Wait. We have
Oh,
a
we gotta
prize.
get prize.
Oh, all right.
We have a prize.
I didn't mean to steal your moment here.
We have
It's dirt!
coffee for you.
Right.
The host just ran through a Whole Foods and stole everything back, shoving it into plastic bags
Wait to
on
see
their
the-
way to the show.
Yeah, wait to see the toothpicks we're giving out next. Really exciting.
So when the first astronauts aboard the space shuttle were going into space, they had these headaches and they weren't sure what was causing them, if it was something about space that we didn't fully understand. And so supposedly a lot of time and money was spent researching what these headaches were, and it was the fact that they were sending up freeze-dried coffee, which took out a lot of the caffeine, and so they were having caffeine withdrawal headaches.
That was it. They just needed a cappuccino or something.
Yeah.
But if you've never drank coffee up until that point, then you wouldn't have caffeine withdrawal. Well, I was reading on NASA's website that it's 2 liters of liquid blood is going up, and
Going up where?
From the legs. Like it's like about 2 liters is going from the legs up to the head, and that's
Right.
creating.
Was this like in a
You're talking
buzz?
about having,
Read
you're
this
talking
stuff.
about having a moon face, which is when your face is bloated because the blood has reached sort of this awkward equilibrium state for a few days. But that's not related to,
Not headaches?
coffee headaches.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying, well, you can't eat bread in space, you can't burp in space, you can't have coffee. Space is bullshit. I don't even know why we're out there, to be
I
honest.
think they
Drink
mix
that
the
coffee, have a bunch of escapees.
On the
Yeah, but you can do Coke on Mars. Who's with me? No.
On the International Space Station, there is actually an espresso machine, so they fixed it.
And which country introduced that?
Italy.
Oh, classic.
Eureka! But
Good job, front row. No prize for you, but good. Good.
So
You got an espresso.
What other physiological problems are there in space? Muscle atrophy?
Oh, there's tons. Yeah, I mean, there's losing, there's bone density loss, which some of it can come back, but some of it doesn't. There's, muscle atrophy, and with the blood equilibrium thing to go into that. So what happens is you go into space, there's no gravity, and so your blood sort of evens out, and usually here on Earth, a lot of your blood is beneath your head. So when you go into space, it sort of evens out. You get a puffy face. They call it moon face. And it lasts for about 4 days or so. And then your body figures out how to cope with it, by which it's actually losing some of that blood so that your body can sort of like better balance out. So when you come back on Earth, not only are you've lost some bone density and muscle, but also you need to get your the amount of blood that you would normally have on Earth back, and that takes a little bit of time as well. So
To get Earth face back.
yes.
Okay. All right, that's good to know.
That's a lot of additional physiological problems that come. And there's also eyesight problems.
Yes, the
too?
eyesight stuff, yeah, so it can, going into space for a long duration can, for some people, change the shape of their eye and cause them to lose some of their, some of the sharpness in their sight that's permanent. So some of the astronauts have gone into space.
That sounds awful.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's awesome.
Yeah. We're gonna, space tourism. You ready for your moon face? No, I'm not. Maybe a moon ass. Get the
But you know what? I'm glad hearing that SpaceX, because I don't really trust Elon Musk. I don't like the way he smiles.
Okay.
And now I feel like this is confirmed. He's like, we're gonna go to space. I'm like, what are you up to, bro? We're trying to get my bone less dense.
He has a lot of stock in lens crafters. One or two. He's a very smart man. He is playing the long game. That guy's a genius.
He knows one of my weaknesses is eyesight.
I wonder how he could tell.
Yeah.
Oh man. That's
By the way, I love how much dumber the three of us are than the two of you guys.
That's why we're over here.
You guys are like, hey, blood and bone. By the way, that's how dumb I am. I was a cancer scientist, and still that's how I described our conversation just now.
Can I laugh at that?
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
I'm a graphic designer.
You could be like NASA.
I know! Do you know how shitty I feel over here just making logos? Fucking A! I'm making apps that nobody wants to use and she's flying to the fucking moon!
You should get hired by
Jesus,
Elon
my
Musk.
dribble profile needs some work! In
I don't know what
Inside
those
Baseball,
words are.
okay.
He's got too much blood in his head right now.
I do like the last
I
2
am
minutes.
moon face on Earth. What the fuck?
The last 3 minutes of the show just sounds like male angst.
Goddamn patriarchy!
So, holy
I don't know what happened
Holy
there.
cow. All right, no, this is very funny. And very lighting. So there's also CO2 scrubbing that happens on the ISS as well, right?
Yes, that is correct.
And so if that fails as well, or if that stays too high, then there's also headaches from that?
Well, it would not be a good day. I mean, you'd be having trouble breathing. And having trouble breathing means that you're getting a headache amongst other things.
Let me write this
Possibly
down. Having
death.
trouble breathing. Bad.
Dude, it is so dangerous up there, and we just sent humans up. We're just like, it's fine, we'll test you later. Okay.
Yeah. Well, dogs first, then monkey, right?
It's very hard to give an eye exam to a dog. I've tried.
All right.
See,
It's difficult.
and that could be a joke, could be a fact. I don't know.
It could be both.
I think it sounds like a life experience.
Yeah.
Let's
Somebody's gonna have a new startup tomorrow, and I'm gonna feel like an asshole.
I mean, we joke, but if you ever saw a dog with glasses, that would get 1 million Instagram likes.
So
Color
let's
contacts.
get a show of hands. Who would want to go into the International Space Station? And okay, follow-up question: would you want to stay there for more than a month?
What if it was just you?
That makes me want to do it more. That's just something about me.
That was pretty good. I mean, we saw like a third of people's hands go up
Yeah.
for space, and then only like 6 stayed for over a month.
I like that there were people who didn't raise their hand to the
Yeah.
first question. They're like, yeah, I came to this science show, but I ain't no goddamn astronaut. Like, you're very self-assured. I like that. I don't know.
Well, this is
Because it's cramped up. It's small, right?
Well, I mean, it's small, but this is the thing is like, as I learn more about, what happens when you go into space, the less, shiny it seems. I don't know that I would be rushing to go to the International Space
I mean, I know it's San Francisco, like it's 500 times bigger than anyone's apartment here, but
It is the size of a football field.
never mind, I take it back.
I mean, it's small compartments along the length of a football field, so it's you've got room, but you're always in a tiny compartment.
So another question that I had was about the measurements that they're taking of the astronauts that go to space, because you're being monitored, you're being surveilled. Surveillance is happening 24/7, right? Is it not?
Oh, of your medical, like.
Of your
Yeah.
of everything that's happening to you and the way you're reacting to
Yeah,
things.
so I mean, astronauts have to exercise for 2 to 2.5 hours a day just to try and combat some of the muscle loss and the bone density stuff, and then they are monitoring the eye issues using, I'm gonna blank on the name of it, ultrasound. They use ultrasound to look at people's eyes and monitor the shapes of them, and because they're trying to figure out who suffers from it and who doesn't, because some people are coming back and they're needing glasses, or they're having other eye issues that are permanent, and some other people it's not happening.
So, like, for example, if you're submitting a report and the report doesn't get sent back and you work 8 hours on it, and then they hit you back up and they're like, we didn't get the report, you have to do it again. If you get stressed, then they're gonna log that and be like, he's not going back up to the space station.
I think they probably have figured that sort of thing out beforehand.
They just wing it.
It takes so many years to become an astronaut. It's a very long endeavor. It can take very easily like a decade, on the ground before you even possibly get sent up. Some people it's 2 decades.
Unless like there's like a large astronaut or asteroid coming to Earth, right? Then you can like 6 months. You
have
and the rest of your
to
crew-
be a hot looking dude.
Right, yeah.
You gotta be like.
You have to work in the oil fields.
Right.
So it's basically, if they're being monitored all the time, it's like an episode of Big Brother with like a bloated face. Everyone has a big bloated face. All right, now I understand space. Right.
All right, next question. A competition was held to create better algorithms for detecting the effects of dark matter. What area of science was able to produce a better algorithm?
Apparently graphic design.
I didn't enter the competition.
First of all, what the hell is dark matter?
I assumed like probably a 14-year-old in Silicon Valley did it.
So dark matter is when we look at galaxies and we see that they're held together, there's not actually enough mass there to account for the gravity that's holding them all together. So we give sort of this invisible mass that we can't see that's somehow holding all of these galaxies together, the term dark matter. So it's literally we're able to see the effects of it because we are able to measure how much mass is needed to keep things gravitationally pulled to one another, but we can't actually see anything there.
It's like a huge guess, right? That's what dark matter is. There's basically a scientist who was like, explain it! And he goes, it's dark matter. And then he got a raise. That's what happened.
It is a placeholder name for sure.
Yeah.
You know, people don't know what it is, but the truth to it is that we can measure the effects of it, and it's not uniform. So unlike dark energy, which I won't go into because that gets even more, but you know, dark matter is actually lumpy. So when we look at galaxies or different objects around the universe, we can sort of measure that dark matter is lumpy in places rather than being a uniform thing throughout the entire universe.
So it's not like space-time, but it's space lumps.
Yeah, space lumps, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my lumpty lump, my humpty hump, my junk. Okay, no.
Is this not a Khalees crowd? Oh no.
All right, so does anyone have an answer? What do you guys think?
Yeah, we have an answer. All right. Yes? All right.
My guess would be physics.
You're saying, okay, physics.
There
All right,
is
what's
science.
science?
No way. Bro, come on. That's way too obvious an answer. Be fun with
Is
it.
it physics?
It's the easy answer.
Oh, you good point.
What isn't physics is the question.
Okay.
Oh, that's a burn! You hear that?
You just got Eureka. Boom!
All right, what else we got?
Quantum physics.
Ooh, going deeper in. Is it quantum physics?
Nope.
Nope.
All right.
Burn.
That was like mean to that guy for you to say quantum. That's like, you know, The Price is Right when you go $1 less.
If you say string theory, I think we're out. Okay.
Nah, shot in the dark matter.
Wow.
Nice.
Wait, what?
Chemistry?
Chemistry? No.
All right, hold on.
Archaeology? I'm just keep counting now.
Geology.
Nope.
It's close. It's
Keep
getting
going.
closer.
that's
It's warmer.
Theology is close.
You said lumpy, so I'm going to say chaos theory.
What is it?
Then I'm going to say cookie.
What was the
I said,
last
you
one?
said lumpy, so I'm going to say chaos theory.
Oh, chaos theory.
What is biology?
Wrong show.
Bum, 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 bum.
You're not winning any money, my
That
friend.
doesn't have a closest answer.
I think it was the statisticians that predicted the last election.
That is true.
Hot
Nailed
take from
it,
the audience.
bro! The guy who looks the most like a Trump voter just
Too much.
Too soon?
Too soon.
Too soon?
Yes.
Not soon enough.
Seismology.
No.
That's interesting. The study of size. I love that.
Computer engineering.
Man, we're just going through the course
No
of
one has
that.
given a fun answer
They're
then.
trying.
I was
Anybody?
wondering if it was economics. Is it economics?
Wait, what's that?
Game theory.
Game
Game
theory.
theory, that.
We're
Keep going. Okay, somebody up there. We're gonna be at this question for 2 to 3
Somebody just
hours.
repeat what I just said. Get a tortilla.
Yeah.
I want to guess
It's
philosophy.
tortillology.
Is it philosophy? Just kidding. That degree is good
Wait
for
a
nothing.
second. It's graphic design, isn't it?
Excellent.
I already made that joke at the start of the question.
I can Photoshop anything.
All right, we have another answer.
So dark matter is fake news. It was invented by crackpots. Therefore, the science is psychoceramics.
I don't care if he's wrong or not. Give that man a tortilla.
You sound like you're whispering into Putin's ear.
You deserve tortilla.
Why do you keep talking to the president, sir?
All right, should we try one more?
Give back Crimea.
If it's lumpy, people read lumps on heads, so how about phrenology?
Hey, that's a respectful
Yeah,
fake
respectful.
answer.
That's a fun answer.
Not the answer. So the
Can we give it closest?
The closest was definitely geology.
All right,
Geology. Who
that
said
was-
geology? Oh, tortilla.
Give that man some beans. You are one step away from a meal, sir. Well done.
All right.
All right, we have, sir, something that's interstellar for you.
What do I have?
Whoa!
There you go. And now you can play with that
Put
while
it in
eating
the
your
tortilla.
tortilla and silently crying yourself to sleep.
You can eat the tortilla on the space shuttle.
Oh, you have all the tools for a
Okay,
very lonely
all right.
night, sir.
Let's find out what the actual answer is.
Watch that man's
So
Instagram.
the actual answer is glaciology, and so
Oh,
I
geology
know
was
this is
close. So essentially, what happened was there was a glaciologist who entered the competition who had an algorithm that he used to be able to detect the edges of glaciers in satellite imagery, and he used that same algorithm towards dark matter, and it ended up beating out all of the existing algorithms for dark matter thus far. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Wait, how? How does this work? Yeah.
I'm going to guess this. Here's how it works. If you study glaciers, you have a lot of free time.
This is true.
Yeah.
Not with climate change.
Good point, man.
Was he super stoked, like nobody pays attention to me because I study glaciers, and now look, dark matter, I'm the pimp.
Studying glaciers is cool.
I think it is, but nobody mentioned it here, did they? No one's like, glaciology, I hear about it all the time.
All those great movies about hot glaciologists.
Yeah.
George Clooney is ice cold this summer.
We're joking like
At the
that.
edge of
Antarctica.
We joke like that's not going to become a thing. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but coal is now winning the war against climate change. So this is depressing, but it's going to become a thing.
This may be the last glacier you'll ever see.
Yeah.
Okay, one more time. So, with dark matter, we use algorithms to sense the edge of glaciers, and that tells us what?
So what happens is because we can measure the effects of dark matter, but we can't actually see it. So they were trying to figure out better ways to measure those effects and to sort of determine, the lumpiness around galaxies, and so you can sort of see where dark matter clumps together. And so this guy uses satellite data to look at the edges of glaciers and sort of draw around where you can see an edge of a glacier from above, and apparently his work was really, really applicable towards dark matter, that's it. That's all I'm
Why don't they
going
just call it dark glaciers then, right? Just out of respect.
But I just hope his name is like Gary Matter, and that's why they named it after him.
Did anyone have any close idea that was anywhere near? No.
I mean, the guy was
Wow.
just said geology.
That is a field that I think nobody in like a 100-seat area knows about.
Because it's going to last for 20 more years, and that's like...
This is what I love. So this was one of the projects that was hosted on spacehack.org, and this is the whole purpose of that website, is really to get people from completely different domains, whether inside or outside of science, to contribute towards space exploration. So stuff like that happens actually quite frequently now that there's a lot more citizen science projects out there and multidisciplinary collaborations happening.
So somebody studies penguins, like, let me explain Saturn's rings to you. Based on the penguin. Okay.
So that's cool though, that the stuff like this comes from citizen science, democratizing science, and we're putting interdisciplinary people together. Wow. See what else can come from it.
They should have some comics.
I think NASA should have comedians. That would be great. Right? How cool would it be to get science disseminated to you with humor?
It's the first thing I'd say is burp in space, bro. Just give it a shot.
I know it's true. I have performed on a moving bus and a moving train, and so a moving rocket ship. Like
You're basically already there. Your material will work there too.
So when you were moving, was it relatively fun?
Hey, ma'am, I'm trying my best. Okay?
All right, on we go. Question 5. What do Russians, call it when
Sir, we gotta talk to this guy again.
What do the Russians call it when astronauts are pulled out of the space capsule after returning to Earth?
Hillary Clinton, boom, nailed it. Bye, goodbye, everyone. I volunteered for her, so you guys didn't vote enough.
What would it, when they're pulled out? Is it called capture? We've got another one. Oh, the Russians own astronauts, not like ours at the plant. Escapee, that's funny.
All right, Justin, any thoughts?
Pass.
All right.
I know it's a thing now.
Let's ask you guys.
Ask the Russian guy. Can I take another guess?
Is that tortilla guy? Look, man!
You're gonna have.
He's trying to earn all the prizes.
No, you know what? Go ask that man. That guy is earning his keep around here.
It's lame when the same guy wins 2 prizes, but if he wins all the prizes,
Then it becomes cool. There's an interesting
That's the
J
sugar
curve where
daddy
it goes
of
from
the
annoying
show.
to
All right,
awesome.
here we
There's
go.
like this dip.
It is vodka time.
Vodka time. Okay, that's.
Okay, I'm thinking pulling someone out of a thing like that might be like a can opener. So if there's such a word in Russian, I would guess. I'm taking over.
The Russian word for can opener.
man, you got
Okay.
one
All right.
prize for being close enough, and you were like, I'm gonna give something.
Canned chicken soup, maybe in Russian.
You go with that.
All right, hold on.
Cosmonaut.
No. Okay.
Hey, I appreciate you,
Valiant
son.
I
attempt.
like your thinking.
Valiant attempt.
Damn, these are hard to answer.
Oh wait, we got something back
Hold on.
there. Can opener.
Sputnik.
Spoon. Okay, everyone's just throwing. How
Wow,
many
this is
Russian
not
names?
a
We're just throwing around words we saw in an 80s Russian film at some point.
Can you
All right,
can you
hold
give a hint?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like the hint would. Yeah,
We'll give it away?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it anyway.
How do they say it gets the fuck back in there? You're going back up again?
I'm also jealous by how many people here can do a Russian accent, because I can't. Like,
Is it more than that one guy?
I think if I
Mine's
was
fake.
like,
Mine's not real.
it is me from Russia. I was like, that's terrible. What is that? Like that?
You're right. We should leave it at one.
Yeah.
Your second
But I grew up in
birthday.
Texas, though.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wait, I didn't hear.
Your second birthday.
Oh,
That's
really
ooh.
close.
That's what you get.
I think that's so close. We have to give it.
Eureka!
Second birth. That's
birth.
yeah. That's really.
There we go.
Jeez.
You too, if you're in space too long, turn into naked Danny DeVito.
I did not choose that.
All right, here we go.
That's actually what you look like when you spend
Yes,
2
all
years
right.
on the space shuttle.
Oh, I did not realize.
That guy was 6 feet when he left.
It was.
I did not realize it was when you get out of the space capsule, like, safely. I thought it was like when something goes wrong, like horribly wrong.
No,
Like,
not
you know,
in
like-
space. Yes, back down on Earth.
Okay, I
All
thought
right.
it was like the space capsule is coming down and you just fall out.
Maybe you should see gravity.
What's the prize?
The prize is
Here
your
it
own
is.
very little.
Hey guys, if you like these prizes, make sure to go to, I don't know, any farmer's market.
Farmer's market?
Yeah.
I don't think you've been to a farmer's market.
I was gonna buy my copy of Gravity at a farmer's market.
The farmer's markets in Berkeley are very different. I don't think either of those. Is that guy organic?
No idea.
So it's called, second birth, that's Vtaroye Rождение in Russian, and they use the Soyuz descent in this
Yeah,
process.
so why they call it a second birth, I mean, obviously they're taking the astronauts out of the capsule, but specifically when you're coming back from space, you can't really move because gravity is so difficult when you haven't been experiencing it for a while. So it's hard to move your arms, it's hard to even move your head around. You don't have all the blood volume that you should for on Earth, you're weak. And so they not only, when the Soyuz lands, they have to open it up, but they have to like crawl in there and like cut out the your seatbelts essentially, and
Can't even do this.
they can't even, so
It's
they
a
cut
muscular
out.
atrophy again.
Yeah, so they cut out the straps, and then they actually lift the astronauts or cosmonauts out of the capsule, and then they put them in like a little lawn chair and fold like a blanket around them because it's cold.
And then they just listen to them burp for hours.
Yeah, so it's like,
That's
they call it a second birth.
That's basically me like at 3 a.m. after the bars close. It's not,
Yeah.
I felt
So
that.
they have to treat them like babies when they come back. So that's why they call it second birth.
And this space capsule had twins. How sweet.
Yeah, that's not the second birth, but it's close enough.
So Scott Kelly said that it was like going over the Niagara Falls in a barrel that was on fire. The descent.
How would he know that?
You haven't seen him read his hobby list?
That is some intense stuff. So that goes from like 800 feet per second to like 5 feet per second, and I mean it sheds a few layers in this fire.
You're essentially inside a meteor coming down to Earth.
And how long does it last? How long does it take to recover?
Oh, to recover, it depends on how long you've been up there. So if you've only been up there a week, not very long, but if you've been up there many months, it might take several weeks for you to be able to really be able to do much. Some astronauts don't fully listen to what they should. So for instance, if you're up there for a long time, you probably shouldn't be walking around within the first week or two much. But like I remember hearing, I think maybe an interview with Chris Hadfield saying that he sort of was like, I'm fine, and it was just like, I'll stumble around and figure it out.
I love these rebel astronauts. Like, fuck this. Fuck tortillas.
I'm in space, Brian. I don't need to listen to you.
You're not here, Brian.
But this is also, the reality to think about whenever we do end up sending humans to the surface of Mars is that on that trip, people often depict, like, we've landed on Mars, open up the hatch, now we're going to go out and see what Mars is. No, you're going to be, like, on bed rest for, like, 2 weeks, like, maybe 1 week if you're lucky, but, like, probably closer to 2 weeks, while you're just sitting in your capsule unable to explore Mars because you can't get up and walk around, so.
Yeah, but like you're still on Mars. Like you're thinking like, man, they won't even get to explore Mars, you guys. It's not a bad translation for us.
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah.
It's just they're not going to be able to land and then go like, oh, now we can walk around on Mars. They're not.
The way you said it, it's gonna be like one astronaut is gonna be like, guys, I can finally walk, and it's like, nah, man, it's time to go home.
Okay, and this is cool. There have been 29,000 person days in space travelers have spent, and that's 77 cumulative years of humans in space, the days that we've been there.
3 million tortillas.
100 days of spacewalking. Wow. That's really cool. Spacewalking.
So do we know how many burps, though? Like in total?
Oh, you think we're gonna be done with burp jokes, you guys? We're not.
All night.
How many callbacks can we have?
I cannot figure out this audience, because this audience will be like, yeah, we're down with jokes. Now wordplay though, and then you guys fucked over those two guys up top. And then, that's right, I'm supporting certain audience.
All right.
Next question. Moving on.
Now that Sid has divided the crowd. How many near-Earth objects, asteroids, and comets that enter Earth's neighborhood have been discovered so far? To the exact number.
No, you can. Oh.
Okay, just kidding. Not to the exact
like
number.
within the thousands.
Okay, within the thousands.
I'm giving you a hint.
So it's not 5.
It's not 5. No.
But it could be 12.
It's so sweet that we call it Earth's neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well, what constitutes near the Earth? Like, just close by, like, hey, I'm in, like the asteroid's giving a booty call to the Earth. Like, what's up? I'm in your neighborhood.
A lot of times it's considered, for some of them it's passing between the Earth and the Moon. Anything that's sort of interacting with Earth's orbit and getting close. So you're dealing with space, which is all directions. So it's sort of either things that are passing sort of in front of the orbit, behind, in between.
It's wherever, I get it.
Yeah. It's space.
Any thoughts? Any thoughts? No?
It's the nearest to the 1,000, so I'm gonna guess 77,000.
That's
And
77,001.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Now I hope you win.
I'll get 676,900.
Audience? Members of the audience?
What do we got?
Okay, we haven't had an answer from a people yet. All right.
$75,000. Wait, no, that's what he said.
It's true.
This isn't the price of right. It's
80,000.
80,000.
I like that you guys went from guessing to just being mean to me.
You tried to connect with them. This is what you're getting.
80,000 was the answer? 80? Yes, 80,000. Okay. All right. Any other thoughts from? Yes. Okay.
Can somebody be bold?
8,000.
8,000. Oh, 8,000. Okay. Is that closer? Or is she
closer?
She is closer than the previous answer.
All right. Somebody go up there.
All right.
Tortilla guy, this is your chance.
4,000.
4,000. Is that closer or further away?
Get 4,000.
You're further away from Earth.
I do like that so many people have guessed high that now the real answer is going to be like, oh, that many? Like,
Wait. Up here.
You get all the prizes.
like it's only 12,000. The other guy guessed 88,000.
1
metric fuck ton.
Oh, wow.
I
Hey,
haven't-
lady!
I haven't
You're the coolest
calculated
lady
the
I've ever
mass. I don't know the mass.
Don't know the
of-
mass.
It probably is.
But it's
It's
a
a-
lot, because they can be as big as 1 kilometer in diameter.
A fuck ton covers a whole lot of weight, basically,
Yeah,
any
yeah.
weight you
But
want.
a kilometer in
I-
diameter is a lot.
Yeah, I haven't calculated the oh god, I don't actually know because it depends on who's actually doing the tracking. So this is through NASA's tracking, and so we're not dealing with, you're not dealing with basketball size or anything of that nature. But yeah, essentially below a kilometer, above maybe a house, let's say. That's a rough answer, but there is an exact answer out there somewhere that's better than mine.
I didn't hear two of the other answers, but 11,000?
Is that close enough?
But did we have a 12,000?
We have a 12,000?
We had 18,000.
All right, we're getting close.
24,000.
Nope, farther.
I like how confident you were with that, though. You were like
Yeah.
24,000.
All right,
like
let's-
cocked an eyebrow. That's good. Good.
20,000.
20,000? Okay.
So who's the closest out of all the answers?
We have one more answer.
One more. Okay,
One more.
here we go.
13.
Oh, that is the closest so far.
All right,
All right,
let's
Eureka.
give it Eureka, everybody.
Wait, 13?
What do we have here?
It's over 15,000.
15,000.
That's a
Wow.
lot.
All right, buddy. You ready for some? Where are you at?
Come on up. Come
You get
on
some
up and the
Earths,
prize
my
for the
friend. Some Earths. Earth catch. It's near you. Stress balls. And here's one more. Oh, that went near another object. Okay.
This is why we're comedians and not sports.
yeah, I'm not a good.
No, man, that was varsity badminton. That's true.
What's the significance of 15,000 near Earth objects?
Well, that's
Yeah.
the ones that we've tracked thus far.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the significant part of it, is that, there's still a lot of tracking to be done. More money can be put behind it. There are private efforts trying to track more asteroids. NASA has tracked the majority of the asteroids that would be, Earth devastation size, but things that are like city killers, aren't tracked as well as they could be. But regardless, these near-Earth objects aren't necessarily objects that are going to impact Earth. These are actually just the objects that we have to really keep a close eye on, just to see sort of how they're passing and making sure that they're not sort of interacting with us.
Was there ever a time that an object came close that we should have been worried about but weren't told about?
Well, the thing that happened in Russia not too long ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was not good.
No, it wasn't.
Broke out some windows and
Yeah.
hurt some people.
We
and-
weren't prepared.
Yeah, well, we didn't know it was coming.
How big was that one?
Very small.
In fuck tons. How big?
Yes, a small, like, nano fuck ton.
Okay, nano.
Yeah. Like,
I'm gonna use that. I think it's a
That's
nice
my new
turn
rapper
of
name,
phrase.
actually.
but, so the cool
Oh, you
thing-
MC fucked him?
I'm MC Nano Buckton. I'll be putting out an album with Drake.
But the fun thing is that, asteroids actually pass by the Earth pretty commonly, and so every few days there's actually an account on Twitter called Low Flying Rocks that tracks all of these and tells you how close an asteroid or a comet came to Earth, how fast it was moving. And what I really loved is with Science Hack Day, where we get people to hack on different data sets and everything, someone actually made an asteroid doomsday lamp. So they hooked up a lamp to this Twitter feed, and so whenever an asteroid would pass by the Earth, the lamp would go off, and a siren would.
It's like the clapper, but
Yeah.
incredibly scary.
But yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it was a
Well,
fun hack.
That's good, because I know the first thing I think when an asteroid's approaching Earth is the lights on? Are they on?
Dang, it's just a crazy thought, because if that thing hit New York, it would just be devastating. The one that hit Russia.
I mean, yes, it would be worse with a lot of skyscrapers around, obviously, but I think it was pretty devastating for Russia. I mean, you had a lot of people going into the hospital who had cuts on their face, and it's never a good day. Let's just leave it at that.
So you're saying, but NASA doesn't track all of them.
Well,
there's smaller ones,
so these are the ones that we've found so far.
Right. Because I know Hollywood also tracks them. They track a lot of them themselves. Great, yeah.
So and it's truly important because it's life or death in some cases.
Yeah, I mean, so these are ones that we know are interacting with Earth's neighborhood, so we're able to keep track of them. But when it comes to asteroids, they can either be things that are regularly entering our orbit, or they can be things that are flung our way from Jupiter. So while Jupiter does a very good job of actually keeping a lot of asteroids out of our neighborhood, occasionally it can actually end up flinging one towards us, and so that's why it's important to actually be spending more money and more effort on tracking asteroids. Is because a lot of it's dealing with the unexpected ones, the ones that we don't have actually already in our neighborhood but could enter our neighborhood. Yeah.
So as soon as the gravitational pull potentially lapses from Jupiter for a little bit from the asteroid belt, it can just come right in, and we need the right tools in place to measure that and make sure we don't get hit by one.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of it's having better telescopes in space. So there is a foundation called the B612 Foundation, which is trying to privately fund a space telescope to look for more of the city killer asteroids and do more of the tracking on sort of that scale rather than only tracking the really mega fuck-ton ones.
What's the size of an asteroid that would not burn up in the atmosphere? Like, what size would it have to be to actually hit?
I don't know the exact answer to that. I wouldn't want to say.
It's 10 fuck tons.
Yeah.
So city killers, but town killers, not a big deal.
Well,
Countryside, hey.
Wait, so what is the smallest that we like? So like a continent killer would know, or like?
Yeah, so something where it would.
Yeah, I ask real questions sometimes.
Something where it is going to be, devastating to the entire planet. So yeah, if it was big enough to wipe out an entire continent, the entire Earth is gonna feel the effects of that for sure.
What about like Bolivia? I don't know. I'm thinking like, what's a middle-sized country?
That's not a continent.
No, I'm trying to think like
Look, we can't all be graphic designers, okay?
Croatia.
Yeah, but like if it was that size, like.
Well, these are the interesting things. Like if you're interested in more of this, the astronaut Rusty Schweikert, who was an Apollo astronaut, he actually does a lot of work around sort of the ethics of deflecting asteroids and what does it mean if you have something that could hurt one country but not another, and we have the ability to deflect it, but maybe we can only sort of nudge it around, like what happens in those situations. So
who gets hit?
Yeah, so he talks a lot about like
Australia is fucked.
By the way, I like that I've been so dumb so far during the show that when I said Bolivia, she's like, Bolivia's not a continent, kid. I believe that's what you think.
And on we go.
On we go.
When was the first piece of science-based fiction written about space travel?
H.G. Wells, right?
Ooh, hold on, comedian. Hold on, keep your hand raised. Comedians, thoughts?
Well, my answer is actually what her answer is. I just don't want to say it right now. I'm gonna let you take it.
Okay.
Was it the movie? Was it the guy from Friday Night Lights?
The guy from Friday Night Lights.
And like jumping
the
on
astronaut
and I
farmer.
No, the guy who
We still talk about the continent of
Bolivia.
jumps a lot. This is a real movie.
Okay,
Friday Night Lights.
John Carter?
Yeah. No answers here yet.
Wow, that was a long trip.
That was so
Sorry, say it again.
From the Earth to the Moon.
Wasn't it Cyrano de Bergerac? Because he wrote about it.
Oh, did he?
Okay, well you can
No,
say,
but interesting.
say the year first. The year.
Are we? Yeah, can we go with Shakespeare? Are we going? Let's see.
I'd be
Shakespeare,
happy to
space
figure-
travel.
Answer.
The Bible. Too real.
Answer.
I don't know if this is what you were looking for, but Immanuel Kant writes one of his dreams in the Prolegomena to the Metaphysics in 1783.
Well, Mrs. Fancy.
Give Hermione a tortilla.
It's a good answer, but no.
She's close. Yes.
I think that was the best answer I've heard. That was still wrong. Like, that was a great.
If you don't have the year right, we're not feeling it.
No, but yeah, I did.
Wait, did she have the author right?
No.
Oh, all right.
No, but
I guess.
Sorry, I was trying there for you.
I guess we can't give it to you. I'm Bobby Guys. Goodbye.
I thought of that joke and I did not tell it.
It was right around 32 AD when somebody noticed Jesus floated to space.
Yeah, me and you are cool.
We take a chance here again.
Yeah.
Jules Verne, A Trip to the Moon.
Jules, and we got an applause break there too. No?
Can you give us like the
the approximate age? Are we talking about like Age of Enlightenment, Dark Age? Where in approximate history?
Oh, I
3 fuck-ton centuries ago.
You're diving into the fact that my history centuries I don't think are accurate enough. So, but no one's named the actual author
No one knows.
or yeah. But I feel like people are gonna like hate me for this because like getting into science.
Welcome to our life.
If it's
yeah,
Dr.
getting into
Seuss.
science fiction, people get very opinionated about.
Can we say
places.
Renaissance?
Just go for it.
Is that okay? Can we just say Renaissance?
Nobody else, right? No one wants to like bust out their journal and say it was me.
All right, we have an answer.
Around the 1860s, Jules Verne from Earth to Moon.
No.
But that accent,
Well,
you
yeah.
gotta give him like half.
I can give him half a point for that accent. Okay, so nobody knows that. We don't know the answer to this one.
Wait, we have a few more guesses.
Wait,
We
two
got a
more.
few more.
1600s?
Oh!
Okay, that's not a book, but we appreciate.
Wait, no, but it says when.
Oh, when?
When?
Well, that is the correct century. Yeah.
Oh,
Give that man a prize. Come on.
Guy. Oh, he's got that?
Give it up for the white
All
guy
right.
who's shaped
Let's
like
give him a
Jesus.
Eureka, guys. 1600s.
Give it to the guy who looks like Jesus.
Hold on.
Close enough.
Wait, hold on. Can we at least let the lady guess who was raising her
Oh,
hand?
no, where were we? We moved on. He got it. All right, my man.
Sorry.
No, we're moving on.
Sorry.
Okay, we have a prize.
Love your long hair. Look better with your awesome little NASA cap.
All right.
Hey.
That's a cool hat.
And now you're
The
total
NASA
space bro.
hat and the hair kind of cancel each other out.
Plus, you have that astronaut, so it looks like you're on a field trip somewhere.
Kepler.
So how many of you are familiar with Kepler's Somnium? All right.
I saw the movie.
So in the 1600s, Kepler actually wrote Somnium, in which he described not only going to the moon, but exactly how we would go to the moon and what it would be like to look at the Earth from the moon from a scientific perspective. This also famously was lending more credit to the Copernicus theory of planets going around the sun rather than everything going around the Earth.
And what is a somnium?
So I believe it's dream. So because Copernicus theory at the time was not accepted, the way he sort of got away with this, writing this, was to say, oh, it's all a dream. But a lot of scholars believe, he said that sort of just to not be persecuted.
Not to be tortured to death.
It didn't get published for 20 years. That means he wrote it, and a bunch of publishers were like, no one's interested in space, bro, and they never will be.
I believe he wrote it, and he wrote it in different parts, and then I think it was his son who actually ended up helping publish it later, I think after his death.
Just like the Similarian, you guys.
So
I watched the DVD extras like you.
So with Somnium, he talked about, being able to actually be on the moon and being able to actually, what it would be like to look at the Earth and different sort of scientific observations you could make about the Earth while being on the moon. I think also it was the first time where the idea of like space travel wasn't just like a straight shot to the moon, but that you would have to actually sort of get out of orbit, or the understanding of orbit at the time.
And that guy was pissed. He's like, not a straight shot to the moon, I'm out of here.
So this work of writing is considered by Carl Sagan and I believe also Arthur C. Clarke to be the first work of science-based fiction. So they and I think a lot of their definition came from the idea that this is the first work where like a lot of actual science was put into it rather than just dreaming about a place without really describing it based on any scientific observations. So a lot of people consider this the very first work of science-based fiction, but not the first to just talk about, going to the moon, period.
So there's no like unicorns in it or anything like that.
No.
So it would be a good idea to write a Somnium about climate change today.
A Somnium. Well, I don't think we're yet at that point, but who knows?
So I can imagine this inspired a lot of people around that time to care more about the cosmos and what it could potentially.
I haven't researched too much like the effect that it had at the time. My understanding is, it was his son ended up publishing it to get it out there, but I think because because it had the title of Dream, you know, I think a lot of people probably took it at, you know, at that. Whereas I think, you know, maybe researchers have been more familiar with Kepler's work, may have sort of been like, oh, I know what you're saying, you know, like sort of reading his subtweets, so to speak. So.
And now we have the Kepler Space Telescope, which is named after Johannes Kepler, and that was looking at exoplanets, 150,000 stars, and this just came out of commission recently, but it was up there looking for like 8 years in heliocentric orbit.
Yeah, close to it. It broke partway through its mission, and then they were able to hack it to do a lot of other interesting science and figure out new things to do with it. It's been a really amazing spacecraft and what it's been able to accomplish, which is, you know, discovering way more exoplanets than we ever knew about before.
3,500 or more exoplanets. And a bunch of ones that we think are or that we know now that are in the habitable zone around other stars. Which means we are almost not alone.
And I mean, just quick question, have you read this book?
Have I?
Yeah.
I've read like passages that are
Oh, you
translated.
skipped, you flipped ahead.
No, it's actually that I don't believe all of it's been fully translated into English.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not all of it.
Bet you feel real mean now, Kevin.
So I've read passages of it, but not the full book.
I feel like we still don't have the audience on our side. I don't know, is it just, I feel like I was looking at this like, this is the worst episode of The Big Bang Theory ever. Four white people, an Indian guy, not having it. This isn't.
Thank you. Oh, sweet. No prizes for him. All right.
I regret giving you a single tortilla, sir.
Can we get some juices from the audience? Can we have a 3, 2, 1, and then we'll yell Eureka? 3, 2, 1. Eureka! All right. There we go. Those are some good juices. All right. Some good juices flowing now.
I didn't know they were called juices.
Good energy. Good juices.
Juice sounds like so good right now.
Good luck.
I thought we were getting juices.
I like that you tested that joke with me.
What do you guys think space smells like?
Well, it's a lot of burps.
Bring a full circle jacket right now. I'm sweating. Oh, we got a lot of answers for this. Everyone knows what space smells like?
That's a good chunk of people.
It smells like raspberry, tastes like rum.
Okay, are you a bartender?
That is part of space, yeah.
Oh,
because that was so specific that if that was wrong, you were going to need help. Everyone was going to gather outside to make sure you went to a clinic.
Yeah, well, I would say Eureka to that.
Is that correct?
That is not incorrect. Yeah.
Eureka!
Eureka! Sweet.
It wasn't incorrect.
We'll get. I think there's more. There's more to what space smells like. So we'll get you guys.
Yeah,
as well.
there's a few different answers.
Why not a little LED, little astronaut USB plug-in
All right,
lamp?
that is the coolest thing so far.
Look at that.
What a cool gift.
I want one of those.
Yeah, take a photo and.
Man, we have really moved up since tortillas.
I know, right? I bet that's
You're feeling like a jerk right now.
So do we have other answers? What does space smell like? Okay, let's go here first.
I don't think the atmosphere is concentrated enough in space to actually absorb the molecules in your nose and actually elicit olfactory senses. So,
Even
I would
if
say
she's wrong,
probably
she sounds
not
right.
Actually, that was my guess. My guess is a much dumber version of yours, which is nothing. But yeah, that's.
I'm going to go with blueberries and vodka.
Yeah, that's pretty.
No?
Definitely a better answer. I want to say ozone.
Ozone.
That is Eureka. That is
Eureka!
Wait, the ozone smells like raspberry and tastes like rum?
Well, I'll explain all of these. So,
All right.
okay, so there are a number of answers.
Get a little miniature here. Astronaut.
That's bullshit. That's like when I
All
taste
right.
wine and have to pretend I know what I'm doing.
Okay, so there's a number of answers for these. The
Yes,
answers
it's very barnyard.
here are
very
based on what astronauts have reported space smelling like when people come back from a spacewalk and they take off their spacesuits. They report the airlock smelling a certain way, and these have been some of the answers that they've reported, including ozone. The raspberries and was it bourbon or rum answer, that comes from estimating what a certain galaxy, I believe, smelled like based on like looking at some of the data. So it wasn't based on what humans had reported, but guesses based on sort of looking into the cosmos. And then there's been reports of the moon smelling like gunpowder from astronauts. Again, when they come inside from being out in space, they report smelling those sorts of smells.
But they're in their suits the entire time. Aren't they saying,
Right.
hey, I smell like gunpowder on the moon?
No, so what's happening is when they're out like on the moon or they're doing a spacewalk, yeah, they're not smelling anything except for their suit. It's when they come back in and then they take off all of their spacesuit gear that they report the airlock smelling a certain way. And so the answer is that it's believed that essentially this stuff of space is on their suits, and then they take it off, and then that's what they report smelling. But the thing here is that no astronauts fully agree on what it smells like. So some have reported fried steak, some said a burnt almond cookie, ozone. One recent astronaut said it smelled like rolling around in snow. Yeah, there's definitely more
Okay, I
information
didn't know that was
needed.
a smell. I thought that was an action.
Yeah.
So we think this is because of stars exploding, that it smells like gunpowder and
Yeah,
sort of incendiary smell?
so the current theory of it is that the essentially all the junk of stars exploding over time across the universe is actually means that there is actual carbons and other things out floating in space, and that it's getting on their suits, and then when they come in, that's what they're smelling. But the ultimate thing, as the one woman was pointing out, was that you can't actually smell in space because, well, you die. So you kind of need that spacesuit. So these are the best reports of what space smells like from astronauts thus far.
So we could hang a bunch of clothes outside and tether them to the ISS and then bring them in and test.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like a worthy experiment.
We should send those down to Earth and then ask Earthlings, what does it smell like to you? And then we could collect enough of a sample size to come up with a decision. That is not a cool experiment. All right.
Okay.
What does space smell like? Next question.
Next question.
What is the most massively useful thing an interstellar hitchhiker can have?
I like that you use the word massively, because you're serious about this. It's like, bro, check out this massively.
Interstellar hitchhiker. An enormous thumb.
No, we're not including a spaceship, the obvious?
Oh my god.
I think the obvious one is Justin's joke, which is a thumb.
A thumb?
No, it didn't
Oh,
work when
that's
you
very
did it
good.
either, but thank you for trying to read that. Was good.
Uh-huh.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we got some answers. What do we have? Hitchhiker's Guide.
For number 23.
Find somebody that has not answered.
A massively useful thing an interstellar hitchhiker can
Wait,
have.
repeat it again?
Wait.
A towel.
That is Eureka.
Damn, that was good, Eureka!
I like that sure wife that you have it too. She was like, this one's your turn, honey. And then you got it.
He knew because?
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, there it is. And if you want to start hitchhiking, might as well with your own little miniature rocket.
Oh,
Set
man.
this off.
The prices are on a real roll now.
This is pretty cool. Again, if you guys take any cool photos with this, tag at Eureka Comedy with them. We'd love to see them after.
That's right.
So
When you blow 2 of your fingers off, make sure you tag it. Hashtag.
That is a very jaded town. That hitchhiker's been through a lot.
Why?
Yeah, so this is not only true with the obviously beloved science fiction Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but this is also true in space. Getting back to actually burping in space. So,
Yeah, finally!
So if you do actually
We're doing
throw
well
up
back
in
then.
space, you want to have a towel around, because if you throw up into a bag in space, it actually will bounce off the bag and go back into your face.
Oh, I'd love to have been there when that first happened.
So there's a lot of things when it comes to like sweating also. When you sweat in space, like the sweat doesn't actually leave your body, it just kind of glubs around your arms
Just
and
like
legs.
this experiment that was just done.
Yeah.
This was just filmed where he takes the water and rings a towel. This towel soaked, and he rings it, and the water doesn't go anywhere.
So,
Space is gross.
So it turns out, space is gross, and it turns out it's actually highly useful to always have a towel with you, because if you're going to get sick, or if you just need to clean up the way
Yeah,
you
if
do
you're
in
alone
space.
for 30 days and you need a clean.
What do those towels smell like?
You need that towel.
So yeah,
It probably
towel
smells like
is
that
useful.
guy.
All right, let's move on to the last question. All right, many astronauts experience a shift in perspective when they look down on Earth from space. What is the name of this effect? Comedians, any thoughts?
It's called the holy fuck effect.
No.
Where the fuck am I?
The We Are One effect? We should we should make nukes effect?
Name of this effect.
I want to guess. I wish I had gotten to walk on the moon and not been left on the spaceship.
Oh, that's a good
Thought? Audience? Thoughts? All right, let's head up here.
Oh, by the way, Derek, you're nailing it on tech, man. Great job. He's doing a good job. What do you want from him?
The blue marble effect.
Okay, that's interesting.
That's a cool name for it, though. I like that
Yeah.
name. Thoughts?
Not okay.
Hey, guy who thought I wasn't funny ever. You have any guesses?
Oh.
Give us your hot take.
Yeah, give us your.
You got a hot take. I'm sure that guy does. Oh,
he is doubling down to the end of this show.
You know what? I want to be fair to this guy. He didn't shrug after he said, like, I'm just trying my best, man.
Yeah, all right, that's fair enough.
All right, we have another answer.
I have an answer and a quick question. So the answer, I'm just like random broken arrow. Probably not right.
Okay. Is that just like a code
Wow.
word? Military?
Buddy, take a deep breath. Like, feel good about yourself. Go in there with gusto.
Yeah, you're giving fun guesses, man. I feel like you're really, like, no one laughed at the first time when you were like cosmonaut, and then you're like really taking a beating. You're
It's a little
believing
sad.
yourself.
It's sad.
He's trying.
Yeah.
It's a real term, cosmonaut. That was a valid guess. But my question is, what I'm actually wondering, has anyone ever died in space?
Not in
or
space.
died on the way down? That's
So, yeah.
Well.
So both on the way up and on the way down, but not in space.
Good. This is a good question. So, so many more people have died on the way up than on the way down.
I haven't actually looked at the numbers, but yeah, I mean, I know of, yeah. So obviously the Challenger disaster, that was dying on the way up, and actually coming back down, that was the Columbia.
So those are all from failures rather than a heart attack or something of that nature?
Yeah, those are all failures. There were also deaths of cosmonauts who died on the way down, and yeah, so it's but no one has died in space yet.
That's very ominous, yes.
All right, we have another answer.
Fingers crossed.
No, I thought it crash landed.
So I am talking about humans here. I mean, with dogs.
San Francisco. So we care about the dog.
With the dogs, I mean, there's been various reports. It depends on, I guess, who you want to believe. You know,
Russian guy?
No, well, you know, there were reports of dogs that were fully fine, and they ended up not being actually fully fine. And you know, yeah, we have had animals actually die while they were in space, but they were all suborbital launches, to my knowledge. I might be wrong on that, actually. So yeah, animals dying in space, that has no doubt happened. If not to a dog, we still send plenty of bugs and insects to the International Space Station, and I'm sure not all of them make it, so.
But the bed bugs are still there, I'm sure.
my guess is Earthsick.
Nope.
Earthsick. How about I can see my mother crying from here?
Okay, how about we give them a hint? It has something to do with the amount of awe that you get inspired by. Religious.
Religious.
Jesus.
Oh,
No.
Oh, we got it.
The God effect.
That's close. I mean,
Is that
it's
close?
It's getting,
I was trying to throw it to Jesus.
Uh-oh.
Sort of a ecstasy, euphoric feeling.
Wait, what?
Okay.
Ecstasy.
Okay.
all right.
Ecstasy. What's the name of the effect?
the effect.
Euphoria. The euphoria effect.
When you're looking at everything.
Okay, that's good. When you're
Enough,
looking
buddy?
at everything.
The I don't have an answer effect. Let's see what we got. Okay, this guy's got it.
Overwhelmed.
The omniscient effect.
Getting there. Should we give it?
All right.
I think we might have to give this one to them.
It's a Eureka!
Okay, hold on.
The awe of it all effect.
Any other hints you can give? Just to.
It's the looking at everything
Looking at everything effect.
Yeah. Encompassing the
omniscience.
The global perspective.
Getting close.
Global.
holistic effect.
Holistic effect.
It's getting close. It's close.
Can we give a
You two are fascinating. We need to. We should switch.
Can anyone get close?
Well, you decide.
Do you think anybody got close from the answers? Close enough?
I think you have to make the call on that one. They're all.
Thank you.
Do we have any other guesses?
Nobody.
Big
picture
Big
effect.
picture.
That's the closest.
That's the closest?
Yeah.
Who said that? Raise your hand. All right.
All right, let's give it. Eureka! Close enough. All right.
What was said?
Is that a friend of Jesus? Oh, man.
Answer is
And through him, you will find the answer.
So you're close enough, and for that,
The overview.
final prize, we have Ariel's book here. What's it like in space? You can take that home.
Awesome.
what a great book. And we're giving it to a book reader. He's not actually a millennial that will only read articles. He actually reads books.
Amazing.
Oh, yeah.
The overview effect.
Yes, you can do this.
So yeah, the overview effect. Yeah, I see some people cringing like there could be a better name, but this is the general term that has really taken hold of the overview effect of being able to really have a shift in perspective when you're looking at the Earth from space. And the thing that was interesting about this is, so I did interview a number of astronauts about this for the book, and I was sort of talking to them. I was like, well, can't we all have, the overview effect? We look at pictures of the Earth from space all the time, so can't we, if we just meditate on that enough, like experience it? And at least with one astronaut, Richard Garriott, he argued that you couldn't experience it, that the key ingredient of really experiencing the overview effect was time. So actually being in the space station and looking at the Earth every day, constantly for hours, and being able to see not only, how humans really are everywhere across the entire Earth, but being able to see the distances between things and being able to, see the thin atmosphere. But he said that his argument was actually that people who have even been in space for like only a day or two couldn't possibly really experience the overview effect, that it really needed to be.
That sounds like a jerk.
Yeah, I know.
He's like
guys, I have been in space for so long.
They say you're a freshman, you don't know anything.
Only people who have been in space between 9 and 11 days can possibly understand.
His point was that it wasn't about just looking at the Earth from space, but it was about having the time to really have it profoundly shift how you were thinking about things, because you really see a lot of things that you don't see in a picture, or you don't see just looking at it for a few seconds at a time, but it's really over several days. So this was his argument. Obviously each astronaut has their own experience of the overview effect and what it was like for them, but I thought it was a really interesting answer as to like why you have to go into space to actually experience this like profound shift in perspective, and why you can't have it here on Earth. So
yeah, the amount of time that it takes for you to see it. And also, this is just one view from around the moon. And that's all that you only see, obviously, half of the Earth that's being hit by the light from our star. And then versus if you're in the International Space Station and you're orbiting, you're seeing the view of city lights, you're seeing the view of the northern lights, you're seeing, and every day you're doing that over and over again, and that's going to build up and be like, dang, we're just on a wet rock. Here's another cool view. This one was taken by Cassini, the satellite that's orbiting around Saturn. And actually, the reason why this view is so cool is because on the other side of Saturn is our star. And it's shining, like this. So that's why we can see it all lit up. And Earth is right there.
Profound.
You don't know.
This one is actually a pretty profound image, because to me it just looks like an illustration or something a graphic designer would create, and it just looks fake, but this is an actual photograph. This is not something that's been enhanced or drawn, and so I really struggle actually with looking at this image of Saturn, because I can't quite view it as a photograph, even though it is.
Yes. Exactly, and actually one of the most profound shifts for kids, so you don't even need to take them to space, but I've now, when I got a chance to look through an 8-inch telescope, and for my first time ever, I saw the rings of Saturn, it changed my life. That's when I decided that, damn, I give so many more fucks about space now. And so
Like
if
a
you
fuck
take-
ton.
And Seth,
Like a fuck ton more fucks.
and people like Seth Shostak and a lot of other astronomers have said that when they were a kid, 10 years old, 15 years old, whatever, and they see Saturn's rings, that changes their life forever, and it gets them interest in the cosmos.
Has anyone's life changed right now? Yeah,
It's pretty
that's
profound
sweet.
seeing a little small rock and then all 7.5 billion people. Carl Sagan's pale blue dot, right, from the Voyager. The first photo that was taken was with the Voyager that was leaving the solar system, and it was just a little pale blue dot was the Earth, and you could see that all 7.5. You would have to obviously conceptualize it, but all 7.5 billion people, all of the plants, animals, biosphere, everything you've ever known, all the 100 billion people who have died before us, have all lived on just that little tiny rock. So we should take care of it.
Okay, that's true. I do have one question though. For the astronauts, the ones you spoke to, have any of them not felt the overview effect? They're like, who gives a shit?
He's like, I'm too busy.
The overrated effect.
Yeah.
I don't think I interviewed any that said that they didn't experience it, but it was definitely interesting hearing from different astronauts. My favorite was Anusha Ansari, who's the first private woman astronaut in space, and also the first Iranian in space. She talked about how she refused to go to sleep for most of the time while she was in space because she wanted to just look out the window the entire time. And so by the time she needed to come back down to Earth, and they were doing all the procedures for like getting ready to go back into the Soyuz and land on Earth, she was falling asleep, and her fellow astronauts and cosmonauts were kind of freaking out, thinking like something was terribly wrong with her, and it was just because she had refused to go to sleep.
It was just another case of an I'm sorry being cooler than me. That's just.
I can imagine being so attached to looking out the window and like loving the view that they're like, no, you have to leave now, and they're just like pulling you off.
she was
of
like-
Was there any astronaut who was like clearly just trying to fake it to be like, you know, like, oh, it was amazing. Oh, you're super blue, dog. Like.
They're pretty honest, you know. Some of them have these really whimsical stories and other ones don't. And I think this is the thing that I really love about the future of space exploration is as very slowly but surely, more people are going into space, and we're having, again, extremely slowly, more diversity in space. You start to realize that space exploration isn't just one experience, and you don't need to be one type of person, and that, you know, some people love long duration space travel, some people hate it, and that there's a myriad of different ways to experience it, and really a myriad of different people who can experience it. And so I think that's what's really fascinating to me.
But let's be honest, you asked about the aliens, right? I'm just saying, you just asked, hey, did you see anything up there between you and me?
There are plenty of interesting scientific stories that people had about having cosmic fairies in their eyes, but that actually happens to be cosmic rays.
That's not what I'm interested in. That's not what I'm interested in.
I have a somewhat. Do you have like any questions that you're like, I want to know this, but I don't want the astronauts to think I'm dumb, so I can't ask it. Like I like on a serious note, I think I want to know about aliens, but I would be too nervous. I don't know if it's not like they're gonna be hanging out with me anyway, but like I just don't want them to, like, you know.
You're afraid to ask an alien question?
Yeah, to like an astronaut, and then be like, this is why we don't take you into space, Sid, or something.
I would go right to it.
No, I think this is the glorious thing of coming into different industries and careers from different places. Is, you know, I think as long as you are honest with people about where you're coming from, and you're not trying to act like you're someone you're not, then I think it's perfectly fine. You know, I think for me, you know, I certainly ask a lot of questions that could be considered, you know, silly or.
Me too.
Yeah, and so it's
What's
something
the
where.
question that got like the most of like eyebrows raised by the astronauts? Were like, I can't believe you'd ask that, or whatever.
Well, I mean,
Like, what are you doing Wednesday night?
Yeah, that would not be okay.
That's not okay?
No,
All right.
no, but I think, you know, for me, when I was interviewing astronauts for the book, I was really trying to get to their most embarrassing stories, and I think some of them weren't used to even having that question asked about, you know, because I think a lot of people ask about like the awe and the, you know, how has this changed how you interact with people on Earth, but I was just like, what's like the most ridiculous, embarrassing thing that you had happen to you while you were in space?
Was there anything in the book that, like, or was there anything that didn't make the book that you were like, oh, this is so good, but about we just?
There's
Yeah.
plenty of stuff that didn't make the book.
What was like the craziest thing?
Well, I mean, the things like we talked about at the beginning, like that Mary Roach talked about. Like, there's a lot of things about like shitting in space that like I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna cut
be a
that
kid's
off
book.
there.
Sounds like a
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah,
Shitting in space.
there's a lot of stuff about not a lot of stuff, but there's like a story or
take the
two
idea.
also about like tampons in
Everybody
space.
shits in space.
Yeah, and then-
Tampons in space.
Yeah, like, when Sally Ride went into space, when she was getting ready to go into space, a lot of the engineers didn't know how many tampons she needed to go into space, and they're like, how many do you need? And like, they filled like a locker full.
Oh my god. That's clearly male engineers.
Yeah. And so like, there's stories like that
There's
that I love.
10,000 tampons. Hope it lasts
good
a
stories,
day.
but they didn't make it into the book. So
We don't have coffee, but so many tampons. I'm so sorry, everyone.
Are we planning any children to be procreated?
I have one.
I don't believe so.
In space.
Guys, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. Justin, tell us about your divorce.
That's how we're closing the show, by the way. Justin's teary divorce story.
Maybe
There's no
maybe we
divorce in
ask-
space.
Maybe we ask Ariel just a question here, because as founding Space Hack and founding Science Hack Day and global directing it and being on NASA's Innovative Advanced Concepts, so what is the importance of democratizing science and hacking in space, making it more accessible to more people? Tell us about why that gets you out of bed every morning, why that's really important to you.
I mean, it's a number of things, but just having different perspectives and really having space be actually accessible, because I would argue it has not been, and I would argue even with the way we're headed with SpaceX and Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic, while those are all great, it's actually not really changing how accessible space exploration is. And I think you have a lot of unfortunate realities with science where a lot of minorities, women and people from indigenous cultures aren't really properly given the opportunities to participate. And it shouldn't even be a thing where they're given opportunities. It should be a thing where they're able to participate and do awesome stuff as much as they want to, and not face a lot of the challenges that there are. It's that combined with the fact that on the topical level of just coming from different industries and backgrounds and careers, there's a lot of serendipity that can happen when you get people from completely different backgrounds and having those fresh perspectives, contributing to science or collaborating with people, and lending their existing skill set. So this is the whole point, is like, if you want to drop everything and go into science, obviously you should do that, but also you shouldn't feel bad for making the choices that you have. Like, if you love design, as I do, or if you love fashion or whatever it is, you have awesome ways of looking at the world and awesome things to contribute to science. And honestly, I think the science industry suffers in immeasurable ways by not really realizing that by getting people from different backgrounds to contribute to it, that you can have more serendipitous discoveries, you can have better solutions to things. And so this is what gets me out of bed every day, is the fact that I think science, without having diversity of people and of different careers interacting with it, I think we are missing out on a lot of things that otherwise we shouldn't be.
More graphic designers in space. Appreciate that.
That is a great answer.
Thank you. Give me a round of applause. Ariel Waldman, everybody. Thank you, Ariel. Thank you for our comedians, Justin and Sid.